Hello and welcome to the Affiliate Marketing Diaries, the podcast from Navigate Digital, where we delve into the world of affiliate marketing. I'm your host, David Hall, and I'm delighted that you're listening. Each show is all about sharing stories and insights from some of the most interesting and capable people in affiliate marketing. Our guests have experienced the ups, the downs, the joys, and the challenges of this global customer acquisition channel, and they join us to share their journeys with you. Let's track the click path taken by today's guest, finding out how they first discovered affiliate marketing, exploring their experiences and understanding what it's like to run the affiliate program for Tew Clothing, famously the Sainsbury's clothing brand. Laura, you studied fashion at Nottingham, specifically comms and proms, communications and promotions for those that don't know. Laura did a couple of postgrad jobs. One was a personal menswear stylist, and then I think she had a stride when she joined the GOAT agency, the world's leading social-first agency powered by influencers. A fascinating experience and expertise that you bring to the affiliate channel, and something that we're all keen to hear about. From there, Laura joined Sainsbury's, first as digital marketing lead affiliates for Sainsbury's and Nectar, and now as digital marketing lead affiliates for Tew Clothing. Let's get to the studio and hear what Laura has to share with us. So Laura Bennetts, digital marketing lead affiliates, thank you for being here and welcome to the Affiliate Marketing Diaries.
Yes, thank you very much for having me, David. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited to chat to you.
No one I've ever met has ever said they were thinking about affiliate marketing as a career when they first started looking for a job. And so let's ask that all-important first question. When did you first become aware of the performance channel? And when did you think that affiliate marketing was a thing?
So I joined the Sainsbury's Argos company and I remember specifically because I was very excited about getting the job. It was the 29th of June in 2020, and I think we're about 3 months into the first initial lockdown. So it feels like it was quite a long time ago. So yeah, 29th of June. I think I fully understood what affiliate marketing was probably the December after. I think even when I was applying for the role, the bit that appealed to me the most was how closely it sat with influencer marketing. So kind of like the publisher relationships, everything like that. My previous job was very much looking after influencers and sort of being that middle point of contact between themselves and the brand. So for me, it was kind of like that communication side of things that was really, really appealing. I don't think I really fully understood like the breadth of how many publisher types there were until about 6 months into the role, when I'd done a lot more meetings with publishers. I'd had a bit more of an opportunity to sort of delve into the landscape, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, actually, this is a lot broader than what I initially thought.
Feels like it presents a really interesting challenge, one that by the sounds of it you weren't expecting, which is, I've got this job. You get in there and you're like, oh, was it overwhelming? Probably seems a bit much and probably a bit harsh, but was it in some way a bit daunting to then realize that it wasn't quite such a narrow path and that affiliate marketing covered such a breadth?
Yeah, I think it was quite overwhelming, especially because when we started, the team was so small. So originally we didn't have an in-house team, and I was actually hired to help the channel move in-house. So when I started, we had my manager, who I think had been within the company for about 12, 13 years, such a broad range of experience across not only the company, but also affiliate marketing. And then there was myself and another colleague and our sort of direct line managers. There was only 4 of us, and we kind of we didn't have that much experience between us, especially with myself and the girl that was hired in the same role as me. So a lot of it was just kind of muddling my way through, especially because it was 4 separate brands. We had Argos, Sainsbury's, we eventually took on Habitat as well, and we had Tew Clothing. So there was an awful lot to soak up, especially when every single publisher wants to work with all of the brands in a slightly different way, but they definitely want to work with all the brands. So a lot of it was questions that I was getting asked where I was just kind of like, God, you know what? Actually, I have no idea. I'm going to have to take this away. Yeah, I'm supposed to be the one that knows the answer to this. So a lot of it was, kind of learning on the job, definitely, about like all of the complexities around like tracking and integration and all of the different publisher types. I mean, I didn't really use sites like that myself outside of work. So again, that was quite a big learning point. I was like, wow, you can get cash back on on my purchases. God, I should be using
And do
this.
you use cashback now?
Do you know what? No, I don't.
So I did want to ask you about the fact you were a small team and you were in-housing the program from where?
So we originally had the whole program being managed by the team at CJ. So it was, the network that managed the program, and then we made the decision that we wanted to in-house it. So that's the reason that I got hired into Sainsbury's Argos anyway. But yes, it was all managed through by CJ.
And what challenges did that then throw? Because that must have been really, that was a big decision, and CJ was a big part of what you were doing. How did you make that transition work?
Do you know, I think they managed it really well, and I think it was probably more challenging for them than it was for me, because they were obviously coming into two new members of staff. They really managed all of that through for us, and there was only three of them that kind of managed this huge transition. Yeah, it was quite incredible, really, and it was a real learning curve, and actually massively instrumental into my introduction to the affiliate industry.
But you're still with CJ, so are you still engaging with them and talking to them on those individuals on a daily basis?
Yeah, daily we talk to them. They're always on hand to support. They're a really incredible team.
Tell us about the first project where you thought you really made a difference, and what was it where you'd made a difference, either personally or maybe how well the program performed, or just your engagement with the affiliate channel.
That's a really great question, actually, because a lot happens on both of those programs. I think on Argos we have so many promotions going live every week. You were kind of drip fed into the routine, because on Argos it very much is a routine. You have got similar campaigns going live every year, seasonally, and kind of those bigger sort of promotions where we've got, like, a toy stunt or something like that. And customers are dedicated to this brand in some way, that they do know when all of those things are going to be happening. So you would often see chatter about, the Argos toy stunt, or the Argos Black Friday, things like that. You'd see conversation about that happening way before, and sometimes it was the case where you're like, oh, I think customers might know more than me about this campaign, because they're so used to it happening in a routine. So I think, yeah, to start off with, it was very much a drip feed into that campaign cycle. But to be honest with you, the biggest one that I think I would call out would have to be the Argos Black Friday, because it really is a huge event, and we start talking about it very, very early. So
Oh, how early?
I'm trying to think. Have I to be honest with you, you finish Black Friday and there's already conversations about the next one happening, because you're already taking those learnings about, okay, what went really well, what didn't work so well here. Let's already make a document about what learnings we can take forward into the next year. So those conversations start pretty much straight away.
Black Friday is a really interesting little moment to get
When
into,
you're in a
actually.
company that's as big and as vast as Argos and Sainsbury's, so much of your workload depends on other people and other teams within the business. So it's not a case of, we can just sort of say, all right, we're going to do this and let's just book it in and let's just go, because we're somewhat reliant on the budget. We're reliant on the promotions that are going live and who it's actually going to be relevant for. We're reliant on when the publishers get their media kits together and when they're ready to talk to us about Black Friday. And then we're somewhat reliant on ourselves and our own workload and when we can sort of manage to get that all in. So it's really quite difficult, because things are going to be changing right up until that last minute. I mean, to give you an idea, so the Black Friday that's just gone, I was still working on Argos at that point. I hadn't completely transitioned over into my role in two, and it's actually such a fantastic day, or such a fantastic couple of days, because we all go up into the office together. We'll quite often get a hotel. The office is filled to the brim with snacks. We've got loads of little things popping off in the office, and it's a really, really good atmosphere. And people are doing shifts within their teams, that pretty much means that somebody is online 24 hours a day for a good week. Luckily in my team I don't have to do so much of that, whereas the search and the paid side of team, they have to be there all the time, whereas we don't have that so much because everything has sort of been pre-booked. However, on I think the actual day of Black Friday, I looked at the rota that we'd put together and I saw that I had a 5 a.m. start. And I was like, oh my God, what am I even going to be doing at 5 a.m.? I was like, I'll probably go in, I'll monitor, I'll monitor the accounts. I probably won't have too much to do. I was really wrong. As soon as I got in, there was emails, there was, publishers that were emailing me changes that needed to be made. There was in-flight stuff that was happening straight away, and I definitely didn't expect it to be that sort of full on. So yeah, I can't even remember what your original question was, but it was hectic. To be honest,
the question or the answer? No, the environment. Absolutely. No. I think we get to an interesting place. If you look back at your this early stuff that you did with affiliate marketing, is there something you would tell yourself, or something you wish you knew that would help you have done it in a slightly different way?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I think the biggest learning that I've taken from the last Black Friday that we ran is to be bolder, to make those decisions.
What does that mean? Be bolder. I like it, but what does it mean?
We ran some very good flat flash rates across cashback sites, because at the moment we've got that new and existing customer implemented, and it's strategically really strong. But I think for customers, especially existing customers, they can always see the new customer rate there. So to put a flat cashback rate on at a very, very bold, commission rate at a key campaign time was very, very effective. And I think that wasn't something that we'd considered until we were pushed to make that decision and make that move. So I think going forward, it's making the decisions quicker, it's being bolder with what we're doing, and it's feeding back to the business about the effectiveness of some of this activity as well, and some of this exposure. It's not always about sort of taking that standard option, we did this last year, let's rebook it in this year. It's about being a bit more bolder, it's about changing it up a little bit.
I want to pick up on something you said. You said you were pushed into making a decision. What was the push?
I think from a year-on-year perspective, we could see the trajectory of the performance going down in flight in one single day, and we were sort of at that point where we were like, okay, if we don't do something now, this could continue, so let's change it. And we had to make a decision. As everybody within the industry will be aware, cashback is the quickest way to turn around your performance. So that was kind of like the natural decision, I think.
The other very strong area is, of course, the voucher code space.
I think the biggest question across the industry for voucher at the moment is probably the incrementality side of things. And I think especially across Argos, where we don't have exclusive codes that run at the moment, I guess the question is, would a customer have got to that point of committing to that sale had they not seen the offer on a voucher website, had they not visited us directly? Customers go to that voucher website because they want to see a voucher code. So if we did have the ability to run an exclusive code on Argos, that would be a better incentive, or for publishers to even work with us or want to give us, those more premium placements. And at the moment we don't necessarily have that. So it's a difficult one, because they're kind of just sort of, you get what you're given.
A question that comes out from there is the incrementality stuff. Why and how you can say, well, we're okay with cashback. That's that's incremental when the individual's getting some money back from their purchase, versus a voucher code where they're getting money off there and then, and it's less tangibly incremental from the way you described it. Is that right? Is that fair? Should the industry be debating this?
It's not fair. I agree.
There'll be voucher codes sites up and down the country raising their hands in joy and celebration of this. And why is it not fair?
I think the conversation needs to be more around attribution than it does incrementality. So I think, we're so aware that so many publishers will feed into that journey of a customer actually going through to the purchase. And quite luckily, I don't know how much I can shoehorn CJ's capabilities in here, but they do actually have a customer journey tool that allows us to be able to see that in more detail. So
Oh yeah.
especially from like a content perspective, a lot of content publishers will start off that customer journey, but then the customers, because they are so savvy, will end up converting through a cashback website or perhaps even a deals website once they've gone around and researched their purchase in a little bit more detail. So we're well aware that there has to be a more flexible approach to looking at incrementality, and we're always going to factor that in when it comes to working with different publisher types, because we can clearly see that there's value in the likes of content or influencer or anything like that, because customers are using it in that research and that consideration part of the purchase. It's a really exciting conversation to have as well, because from a fashion perspective, that's something that we can really get our teeth into for Two Clothing. It's not something that's fully developed on the programme, and it's something that I'm working really, really hard towards, is being able to find, better avenues for customers to discover Two Clothing, especially from a menswear perspective. So if any publishers are listening that have a menswear site that they'd like to use for Two Clothing, please reach out to me on my email.
We'll definitely make sure that happens, and we'll identify how to people can contact you at the end. Well, let's get into that influencer stuff, because I think that is interesting. I also think that you come from a world of influencer. That was the GOAT agency is that space, and so you have an experience that other people don't. The PMI event has had the influencer section for some time now, for several years. It still doesn't feel like affiliate has really been adopted by influencers, the influencer space, or that the affiliate space has adopted influencers in or welcomed them in. I don't know why. They still sit very separately. Why do you think they're such challenging bedfellows?
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. It's a really interesting discussion to have, I think, because for me, what I can see the main difference between the influencer space and the affiliate space being is stability. I think that the nature of publishers, the nature of affiliate marketing is far developed over influencer, and therefore the environment is just more stable. It's, you can pretty much guarantee that a cashback publisher that you're working with one year is still going to have the same influence, if not more, the second year round. And, you can guarantee that the more time and effort and budget that you're putting into these publishers is going to result in higher and higher performance year after year after year. It's growing. The influencer space, I don't necessarily see that happening. I think that it's a much more delicate ecosystem, and I think a lot of that comes down to the way that the trends and the way that the trends move through the social platforms. I think the delicate nature of what people find interesting on different social platforms, and it's just a lot more fragile. That somebody who is a big influencer one year could have a scandal. They could just, they could go viral and people lose interest in them after a while. There's so many factors that can affect their performance that I think it has to be a much more fluid it has to be a much more fluid way of working with them, where we're monitoring it a lot more closely. I think even from when I was working back at the GOAT agency, the benefit of influence marketing is that you can get a lot more niche and you can target people interested in very, very specific things. I think at one point I was researching cricketers in Singapore. I had to find customers that would be interested in these influencers, and the influencers had to have something to do with cricketing in Singapore.
Okay, did
It's
you
like, how
find many?
niche can you get? No, I couldn't. I couldn't find a lot of them because it's really, really challenging. How do you get to the bottom of the internet? Do you know what I mean?
How do you get to the bottom of the internet and
Yeah.
other meaningful conversations? That's like a story written by Salman Rushdie.
My interest in this is quite deep because of what I did at my degree as well. So I actually ended up specializing. So I did like 3 dissertations. One of my dissertations was on internet subcultures, and how the more stable subcultures of like, goth, punk, mod, etc., they don't happen anymore. The last longest subculture that we had was, I think, emo in like 2004. And from there we've just seen things move so quickly through the internet. It's outrageous.
But that exemplifies your point. Really interesting as well. I really
Yeah.
liked it, and I'm sure others will, which is this idea of stability. There is no stability in teen culture, and that was reflected with influencers. That's a really smart observation and a really interesting challenge as to why the two are not good bedfellows. Let's jump into another interesting idea, the hierarchy of affiliate marketing within the marketing team. So how do you see yourself as, forgive the word, important compared to everyone else within the marketing team?
I think a lot of this probably comes down to everybody's understanding of affiliate marketing, because I don't think there's any question at all that affiliate marketing is a space that everybody should be in, because if you're not, you're missing out on a gap in the industry, and missing out on capturing the customers. However, I do think that when you compare it to the revenue and the reach of some of these other channels, which somewhat rely more on impressions, clicks, etc., you couldn't compare it really at all, because the revenue that they drive will always be more than what comes through on affiliates.
And is that back to the attribution? It's being attributed to clicks and impressions rather than
Very possibly,
that
yeah,
last click.
very, very possibly.
So how does that affect your role as an affiliate marketing manager, or how does it affect anyone's role as an affiliate program manager? What should they do within their team? How do we make affiliate marketing stronger? How do we give it a bigger flag?
Well, like anyone that joins affiliate marketing, right, is going to be really, really super strong in communication. Transfer that and become an educator. And you have to dedicate time to educating the business, the team. You have to shout about what's good and what's happening, and, display, like, showcase the activity that's going live across different publisher websites. You definitely have to flip and change quite a lot from being, I'm an affiliate marketer, to I'm actually going to sell affiliate marketing to everybody else. So that as well, actually, back to your first initial question on, how did you get to the point where you understood affiliate marketing, is because I was educating everybody else around it as well, that actually I had to get a grasp of it really quickly, and had to, I found them asking really interesting questions that I'd then take away and discover more about.
So did you have a team around you that were equally interested? Did they want to hear from Laura and the affiliate team, or was there a moment of, oh, Laura's on her soapbox again?
What, with this friendly face? No, they were always glad to see me.
Laura, you'd be fine, but how do the rest of us cope?
Yeah, do you know what? I think there's within Sainsbury's, we've got a really, really large education culture anyway. It's always about expanding your breadth of knowledge outside of your own channel. And I think from an Argos perspective, especially, teams that were involved in the campaign that wanted to, push particular products further within the trading teams and stuff like that, people that work with suppliers, they always want to be able to, offer more avenues for that supplier or for that product to work its hardest. So affiliates kind of, we came out of the woodwork, they weren't quite sure where we were, and I came in and I was like, hello, this is actually a really efficient channel. Have you seen how efficient we are? Look at all the stuff that we can do. And they went, wow, oh my God, you can drive that much revenue without really spending that much. That's incredible. This seems like an absolute no-brainer. Why aren't we using affiliates? This is a really efficient way for us to be able to put our budget to use.
It's actually quite simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you boil it down to that point, you're saying demonstrate and tell the team about the efficiency. To some extent, it boils down to that ROI against budget. It's important and it's valuable. And would you say that being able to make those arguments and present them has then freed you up for securing additional monies to spend within the channel?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's given us masses of freedom. I think that, the more conversations that we're having, the more people that are interested in, the more, we're increasing the reach of affiliate marketing within the company, the more people want to test it and see how it works. And Yeah, we've seen a lot of interest across the business in what we can do, and I think that's not even from just that lower funnel, super efficient perspective either. I think, then selling to them around, well, we don't just do lower funnel, we've actually got all of this stuff upper funnel. We've got all these content things. We're hitting customers at the consideration point of the purchase. Have you done that? They're then saying, well, actually, that's another avenue that we hadn't really considered. And if a campaign, for example, like a product launch, isn't necessarily about, if that particular supplier doesn't want to see, just revenue coming through the door, they also want to increase their awareness of a product. Well, guess what? We've got a solution for that as well. I think it's, yeah, really about flexing the whole of the funnel and making it work dependent on what that team or what that supplier wants to see.
Let's shake things up. What's the most unconventional idea or even strategy that you think would shake up affiliate
I
marketing?
think it probably would be something to do more with the influencer space. I think maybe if you could get the influence team and the affiliate team to work more closely and to combine the influencers that are working with, just get the Instagram stories, get the posts, get the TikToks, etc., with the affiliate codes a bit more of a if you got them to work together in a bit more of a cohesive way, that could really shake things up quite a lot. It's still really quite complex. You'd think it wouldn't be from what I've just described. Get the teams to work together. That sounds great. It is actually really complex, especially when you start factoring in, budgets and strategies and what each channel needs to be delivering. It's quite complex.
Yeah. Perhaps that gives us the chance to talk about what CJ is enabling you to do from that perspective, because there is a change for them, right? They are able to give you insights on the journey. I don't really understand it actually, but what's the insight that it's giving you, and how does CJ work for you on that basis?
So it works as part of their insights tool, which is something that I have up on a separate tab, day in, day out, every day, refreshed on the hour to check what's happening. It's really great tool. But as part of that, they've got a customer journey insight tool, and I can't, forgive me, CJ, I can't remember the date that actually got implemented onto the platform, but it's quite insightful to use, to be able to see a little bit more detail about that customer journey. Because before we could say, oh, we know customers start off at content and they end up at cashback, but how can we actually see that? Because we are just documenting where that last click comes from. So it's really interesting. It breaks it down into, the discovery section. It breaks it down into, the evaluation section, which again I think is incredibly important because you have that starting point, you've got that end point, but where's that customer going in the middle as well? What sites are they dipping from? Are they checking a voucher code out on Hot UK Deals to make sure it's legitimate? Are they going from content publisher to content publisher to content publisher? It's a real mix actually. When you really look into it, it's a real mix of where they're actually going through. And it's interesting to see how many touch points there were from different different customers. So I think, and then they've got the section as well where it's the converting partner, and they can break it all down for you so you can see what percentage of customers have a single use journey, or they've hit multiple websites. It's really interesting tool, and I think for us it definitely helps when we're doing a lot more of that content activity to be able to say, well, oh gosh, we didn't see a lot of revenue coming through from that or something, but actually when we look back at that journey we can see, oh, actually, do you know what, they were a really, really important part of that step, so we can't ignore the value that publisher holds.
I really like that. It plays very much into educating the wider team around what's going on, and them asking for, not unreasonably, proof. We are all interested in how the customer got there, and so it's brilliant that the affiliates industry is keener than ever to show that value and show that journey. What is Laura's side hustle?
My side hustle. I don't do any kind of things where I'm trying to bring in extra money. I've definitely got hobbies that are just fun. And especially, I think for me, I'm like a massive believer of like the work-life balance as well. You know, I sit in front of my laptop so many hours of the day, you know, or, you know, on my phone or anything like that, that when it comes to my own personal time, I have to be outdoors. I can't sit in front of a screen any more than what I do. So
But you
I
must be
think,
sitting in front of a screen a bit, because I know that you record a couple of other podcasts, or have,
yes,
and
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's not really getting away from it, is it?
No, not really. Yeah, that comes under that comes under the category of hanging out with friends for me
Okay,
in my
okay.
mindset. So yeah, I've got a couple of other podcasts. Some of which were born through lockdown as well. So we've got one born out of a joint Spotify playlist that I had with one of my friends dedicated to Korean R&B and pop music. And we ended up making a podcast off the back of that, where we took our favourite songs, or we took a new album release, or as the K-pop industry likes to release mini albums as well, which are usually only sort of like, 5, 6 tracks. And we'd take that and we'd just review it or talk through it. Interesting things that happen within their industry, which actually, if you don't know a lot about Korean pop music, sits incredibly closely with influencer marketing. It's insane.
I'm going to ask you for a K-pop for the affiliate program manager. We will put it up as a link on the end
Wow,
description.
yeah. Any does it have to have an affiliate marketing theme?
No, no, no. Well, it's hey, you're the curator. It's for you to say it's K-pop for an affiliate program manager. So is it to keep them up all night, making sure that they're checking and
Yeah,
validating those
maybe.
transactions? I'm good with it. Whatever you want it to
We
be.
could have it especially for Black Friday as well. There's a song called Maniac by a group called Stray Kids. Maybe that would work for some of the early mornings that I've had to have
It
over Black
already sounds like
Friday.
you've got the first track in there. Brilliant. I'm looking. We're all looking forward to that. Let's bring ourselves to some end stuff. A couple of interesting things that everyone's always keen to know what tools you use on a daily basis, and also at the same time I'm going to ask you about affiliates that you would like to champion.
Day to day, I would say that 80% of what I look at is stuff that sits across the CJ platform. So insights, performance reports, their publisher recruitment tool. It's those are probably what I end up spending a majority of my time on outside of my own Excel spreadsheet landscape. I would like to be able to utilize tools like SimilarWeb a lot more. So looking at the competitor landscape and revenue shares, and seeing what publishers are driving revenue for other competitors. I think for us that's like quite a interesting tool to look at. In terms of publisher recruitment, that's definitely like something that I use to be able to discover websites that I might not already be using. And then with the question around the publishers that I champion, this one's an interesting one actually, because like, what do I want to share and what do I want to keep hidden, because I don't want it to dilute, do you know what I mean? So I'm gonna have to definitely champion one of my favorite publishers, which I think everyone in the business is probably sick of hearing me talk about, but Daniel Chubb runs Dansway Communications, and it's a fantastic network of Facebook pages. And he has a really, really dedicated team that will go out and source all of these offers and promotions. I've seen their websites grow massively since I've even joined the channel. But again, it hits that kind of very niche audience looking for a very specific thing. And, his team are obviously very trusted by the people that follow the communities. So for me, they're a really, really interesting publisher type, and I absolutely see the value in those Facebook communities. I'd love to see more publishers like that. I think it's actually a really good question. I love Dansway Communications.
I'm going to put your LinkedIn profile up as a link on the description. But where else and how else? Where would we like to see you? What industry events you like to be at? So how else can we get in contact with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn's probably good enough. I think, yeah, do you know what? Actually, ironically, despite all my interest in kind of like, influence marketing and stuff like that, my own private life, I like to keep quite hidden on the internet, because I know the depths of where it can go. So, yeah, I think from a professional perspective, please do feel free to contact me on my LinkedIn profile,
That was
which will
very
be
well
linked
put.
below.
I have one last question before we wrap up, which is in the same way that we open up with a question. I would like to ask every guest, but because you're the very first person, I wasn't able to do this. But I would like to ask you a question, which is what question do you want me to put to our next guest?
I think I'd like to ask them, has working in affiliate marketing changed the way that you yourself consume media, or has your shopping behaviours changed?
Laura, thank you so much for being my guest. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed it. I knew it was going to be a good conversation just from my build-up previously, but I really hope you enjoyed it too. Thank you for being part of the Affiliate Marketing Diaries. That's all, folks. If you found something useful in this or a previous episode, we'd love to hear what it was and how you acted on it. You can leave comments on Navigate Digital's website, where you can also find a transcript of this conversation and links to all the references, websites, or tools mentioned in this and all episodes. Please like and subscribe to the podcast on your favourite streaming platform to be kept up to date of each episode when it's released. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.